Now, ladies and gentlemen, from bot farms, raging spin botters, soft aimers, to the entire public premier leaderboard filled with cheaters, you'd think that a company as big as Valve and as much of a reputation that they have, and over 10 good years of experience within CS, that CS servers and problems like this would eventually become obsolete or at least a lot less rare than, well, they have been. But here we are in 2025 and things are practically the same, at least kinda. It's somewhat complicated. Now, where this is coming from actually isn't necessarily from a recent bad experience within CS, it's actually quite the opposite. CS just as of lately, honestly, I haven't run into too many cheaters or issues, but then again, we still have the same anti-cheat and VAC system we did 20 years ago. And yes, for some clarification for the keyboard warriors, things have gotten better, but I'd like to say for most players, they can't really tell by how much. Well, news just in, a third-party service within the CS community, that being Faceit, has just released their brand new anti-cheat and precautions to combat against them, which is quite honestly more than Valve has done, said, or announced in the last couple of years, and some players will state decades. Now, today's video is a commentary and just honest conversation about the current state of Valve, and what they can and are doing right now just to combat cheaters. Now, I do understand that cheaters, since it's an online video game, are always going to be here, but there's just so much Valve can do and they just haven't, and players want to know why. What can they do to fix the mess that, well, we're in right now for CS2? Because I'm going to be honest with you guys, when there's less cheaters on third-party services that are not owned or operated by Valve, but they're within CS2, it's really not a good look, and it really makes you question if there's something more deep behind all of this as to the reason, well, nothing's really been resolved. But before we go any further, I want to give a big thanks to SkinsMonkey for sponsoring today's video. Are you tired of your old and current Counter-Strike loadout and want to trade it out for something new? Well, SkinsMonkey has you covered. As a buying and trading marketplace, SkinsMonkey has a large variety of skins to choose from, giving you the ability to swap out skins with just the click of a few buttons. All you have to do is select the skins you no longer want, pick the ones you want to obtain, and then of course click trade. While doing so, be sure to use my code MANDO for up to a free $5 while trading, and the same goes with depositing on SkinsMonkey with their many different deposit options, where if you use my code while depositing, you get an additional 5%, making it 35% more of a deposit bonus and 35% more skins. And not to mention, they also offer daily, weekly, and monthly giveaways. Thanks again to SkinsMonkey for sponsoring today's video. Now, firstly, for today's video, I want to break down what's recently happened with Faceit and CS2. Really, the biggest and most recent update was just a few days ago, where Faceit on Twitter came out with a tweet stating, "Today we're launching a preseason update that introduces verification checks and changes to premium matches and to the report system." And then eventually they went on to state an entire blog for CS2, for Faceit, how things are going to change. And essentially there's going to be tighter verification checks. And hopefully with this, at least on paper right now, there's going to be a whole lot less cheaters. Now, because of this, there's been two sides to this, just like every story. One side of players is like, do I really need to give my ID in order to play Counter-Strike? Which, yes, honestly, I agree that would be pretty annoying to do if this was actually for every player. But how this is working is if you're caught being sus or suspicious within Faceit, you're going to be asked to, well, submit some sort of selfie, ID verification, and just for people that they think are sus and they don't want to ban, maybe because they have a reputation, but they want some proof that they're real. Now, because of this, people have stated if this was in CS2 matchmaking within official CS2 servers, CS2 would be in a heck of a lot of trouble. And I personally agree with that. Like, congrats to Faceit here. I think this is a great change, and they have been really cracking down on cheaters over this last couple of years. But Faceit and Premier are just two completely different animals. Premier is meant for the more chill side of things. People don't really care all too much, but they want to play. Faceit's more for the people who want to play on the more hardcore side of things, who are going to pay for that Faceit premium. They want better servers, more of a guarantee that there's going to be less cheaters than Premier, which depending on your rank, you might run into more or less on either platform. But long story short of this announcement, Faceit is essentially doing more and has been doing more than Valve for an anti-cheat, for precautions against cheaters, and players want to know why that is, if that's going to change with Valve, and what we can expect going forward. Now, on the other side of things, as to why Valve doesn't just do something like this in the first place with matchmaking, I think personally the game would go into some very unknown territory like we just stated, because I don't think a lot of casual and average players are going to be wanting to submit these things and just do this in the first place. Like, they just want to get on from their 9 to 5 and just play CS afterwards with their friends. And more on the dark side of things, having CS2 set up this way for cheaters, where Valve doesn't have a whole lot of verification checks, they don't get a whole lot of bans. I mean, they even have their own cooldown system because VAC and, well, people at Valve that are, well, on Steam support dealing with cheaters, there's too many cheaters versus open cases that can get resolved in a good amount of time, so they have their own system. Having it set up this way still encourages cheaters to use the market, trade open cases, and overall give Valve more money. So that, in my opinion, is a huge reason as to why the game is in the state that it's currently in. And this isn't just to specifically harp on Valve here to say they haven't done anything whatsoever, because over this last 5 years, they've actually done quite a bit. It's just what they have done is kind of outdated. With the introduction of Prime, it was a great idea on paper, and and should have worked. But here we are today, you can get Prime accounts online for cheaper than what Prime is actually costing. All this extra verification also comes with it, or there's also other ways to bypass it. As it stands for VAC, we have gotten updates along the way, but going back to the outdated system is very similar to what we have with ban waves. With how many bot farms and cheaters there actually are in CS2, all ban waves do at this point is just delay the inevitable, because they're going to come back on a new account, and you guys can probably already assume the rest. And we've gotten the initial release of VACNet 3. It released last year in initial testing, has received a few things in data mines along the way, but really since then we haven't really heard of or know really anything about it. And with that being said, I'd like to say at this point that Valve is officially outmatched with their anti-cheat and just overall ways to combat cheaters. Now, as of what ways devs could do in a Valve format to blow everything we've seen out of the water with other softwares, anti-cheats, websites such as Faceit, one they very well could if they actually put all their effort into this. But here's a couple of my ideas that I've thrown around over the last few years. Now, as stupid as this sounds, just hear me out here because it does make sense. Because of how smart and knowledgeable Valve is with everything around CS, software, cheats, you name it, Valve, in my personal opinion, should buy the top cheating softwares for CS2 and just reverse engineer it for VACNet 3. I mean, especially if the rumors are true that it's all AI doing it, which that's also the reason Overwatch was never released in CS2. If AI and this whole system with VACNet 3 knows how it works, if Valve put in the effort, I don't think you'd really ever be able to get around the whole thing of cheating in the first place. But obviously that's probably a lot harder than what it sounds like, but it's just food for thought. And maybe they have been doing it, it just takes a lot of time. Now, this isn't really number two, at least as a solution for cheaters, but I am personally expecting in the next couple of years, if we don't get the full launch of VACNet 3 and cheaters get resolved, I think personally Valve is going to release some damage control where they re-release Overwatch. And it's not necessarily going to really help with cheaters, it's going to more so just help with players feeling like they're, well, getting rid of more cheaters, actually helping out the game and doing more, cleaning up the mess, but in reality that's really not the case because it really doesn't do anything now. And I think some other reasons as to why we also hasn't seen Overwatch is not just because of the AI situation where it's taking over the entire game with the current state of VAC. I also think it's quite possible Valve knows just the sheer amount of bot farms and cheaters within CS, and all Overwatch is going to do is make them look worse than, well, what we've seen this last couple of years. And my last and final reason is number 3 here. They partner up with Faceit and just use their anti-cheat and their measures within official CS2 servers and their matchmaking. But obviously that probably comes with a lot more of a cost than what players think. Now, I know how some of this sounds, but in my opinion at this point, it's time for Valve to step up their game and finally do something to help combat cheaters within CS, because we've gotten an anti-cheat in Deadlock, and even in TF2 over the last couple of years with the whole recent bot farm issue, Valve has cleaned up that game at least to some extent, yet Counter-Strike is bigger than both of these and probably all of their IPs matched into one, and they don't want to do something about it, which makes me think there's something probably more sinister as to why Valve doesn't want to update this, most likely because cheaters are also feeding them money. But that's a video for a different time. What do you guys think about all this? I do have hope things will get better, but only time is going to tell. Ladies and gentlemen, Fallout.